Feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds of...
The transfer of funds to PSDBM. PS is the procurement service of the Department of Budget and Management, was supported by the issuance of the Government Procurement Policy Board Resolution number 03-2020, approving the adoption of efficient, effective, and expedient procurement procedures during the state of public health emergency, which you declared, Mr. President, on March 7. On March 9, 2020, to include yung procurement po ng mga PPE, personal protective items. Ito po yung mga set na mga face shield, face mask, coveralls, shoe covers, gloves, at mga iba pa pong mga items na kumukumpleto ng mga PPE set. Yung test kits kasama din po and other commodities for COVID-19 pandemic as common supplies and equipment or CSE to be procured through Procurement Service, Department of Budget and Management. Also under Administrative Order number 7 series of 2011 in relation to Section 53 of RA number 9184 of the Procurement Reform Act, government agencies are required to procure common supplies and equipment directly from PSDBM. The execution of a Memorandum of Agreement or MOA was not required, as is a finding in the Consolidated Annual Audit Report submitted by COA to the Department of Health. So they're saying kailangan ng may MOA, but it is the position of the DOH that this is not required relative to the fund transfer transaction with the PSDBM since it covers common use supplies as stated on the aforesaid GPPB resolution. So meron po kami ng resolution and banking on the provisions of other relevant legal bases. To wit, Section 53.5 of 2016 IRR of Republic Act 9184, agency to agency, procurement of goods, infrastructure projects, consulting services from another agency of the Government of the Philippines, such as PSDBM, which is tasked with the centralized procurement of common use supplies for the Government of the Philippines in accordance with Letters of Instruction or LOI number 755 and EO 359 series of 1989. And another basis, Mr. President, Section 20 of 2020 General Appropriation Act or GAA, Procurement of Common Use Supplies. All agencies of the government shall purchase its common use supplies requirements from the procurement service as mandated under LOI number 755, dated October 18, 1978, Executive Order number 359, series of 1989, and also Admin Order 17, series of 2011. And to continue, Mr. President, Section 5, D.5, Item D.5 of RA 9184 also provides that agency-to-agency agreements, so DOH and PSDBM, shall be governed by guidelines unless otherwise provided by a special law, such as in the case of procurement of common use supplies and equipment from the PSDBM. So moreover, under Government Procurement Policy Board Resolution number 20/2019, dated October 2018, government agencies are required to deposit cash funds with PSDBM for their CSE requirement. CSE requirement without the need of a MOA. So, Mr. President, gusto ko lang din pong ilagay sa konteksto with your permission. Prior to the onset of, the Department of Health transferred funds to the procurement service of the Department of Budget and Management for the procurement of common use supplies and equipment based on the following circumstances. A. prior to the onset of the pandemic, the DOH had initially processed the procurement of personal protective equipment such as N95 masks, surgical masks, and other PPE items to replenish the PPE used for the Taal volcano eruption response activities on January 2020 after having consumed all its annual PPE inventory. So hindi naman natin tayo nakapagplano sa bulkan na ito dahil hindi naman natin alam na ito'y puputok. So yung mga atin sanang mga naitabi, lahat inilabas na natin. So in February 2020, when the COVID-19 started to spread in the country and following the increase of confirmed cases, DOH needed to augment the supplies of PPE items for both government and private health facilities. Though the DOH tried to bid COVID-19 requirements through the DOH Central Office Bids and Award Committee, unfortunately, alam din po ni DTI Secretary Mon Lopez yan, wala na halos supplies. There were no bidders due to limited supply and the existing local suppliers could not meet the volume and quality requirements. PPE producing countries also started to withhold PPE supplies for their own use to respond to the pandemic given the unprecedented demand for PPEs among nations but with unequal production capacities. Letter C, during the first few months of pandemic, the DOH tried to exhaust all means of acquiring these COVID-19 response commodities in order to ensure steady and adequate supply of PPEs for our health workers, as was your instruction, Mr. President. Simultaneously, the department was procuring through its own bids and awards committee while processing the procurement with other procuring agencies to ensure that supplies would be available amidst the global scarcity. And Mr. President, I do remember very clearly that your marching order was for us to ensure that there will be enough PPEs primarily to protect our healthcare workers. Yun po yung isa sa mga naalala ko pong binigyan ninyo ng talagang prioridad, yung mga healthcare workers at syempre yung atin pong mga mamamayan pangkalahatan. Letter D, during the state of public health emergency, it became imperative to adopt expeditious, collaborative, and ito po, Mr. President, whole of government approach to intensify response to the crisis brought by the pandemic. And one of the mandates of the PSDBM is to identify sources of supplies, including international suppliers, which offer the best prices, terms, and other conditions for government procurement. In good faith, Mr. President, funds were transferred to PSDBM as it was deemed necessary that supplies be procured immediately for the protection of the Filipino people. So ilan po with regard to this particular issue, Mr. President. If you will allow me, I can go ahead to make my presentation on the COVID updates, Mr. President, including also, Mr. President, your directive last Friday to secure funding for the grant of special risk allowance to our healthcare workers, as well as a contingent fund source from your contingency fund, Mr. President, to extend the contracts of our 20,000 plus various cadres of healthcare workers from September to December, Mr. President. I'll also give that report.
Can you deliver the...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Within your prescribed period of 10 days, we're hoping the SARO will... DBM will release the SARO tomorrow, Mr. President. We have been following it up with them, Mr. President. And also the contingent fund is already being prepared. So we are committed to deliver on the said time frame that you have indicated last Friday.
That's good of you. Thank you.
Sir, thank you po. So muli, magandang gabi, Mr. President, Mr. Senator Bongo, Chair of the Committee on Health, at aking po mga kapwa kalihim, at ating po mga mahal na mga kababayan. Sa ngalan po ng DOH, muli ako magbabahagi sa inyo ng ulat ukol sa COVID-19 situation, kabilang na ang updates sa biosurveillance activities and vaccination laban po sa COVID-19. At huli, magbabahagi rin po kami ng updates ukol sa special risk allowance at emergency hiring ng ating pong healthcare workers. Ito po ay ang inyong kautusan, gaya po ng nabanggit ko kanina. Next slide. Ngayon pong ika-24 ng Agosto ay may nadagdag po tayong 12,067 na bagong kaso. So ang total natin is 1.869 million cases thereabouts. At sa 12,067 na naidagdag sa ating pong mga kaso, 2,806 ay mula sa NCR, pinakamataas as usual. Region 4A naman ay 2,551. Samantalang ang Region 4A ay 1,813 sa Region 3 at 4,897 sa mga natitira pang mga ibang rehiyon. Para naman sa atin mga active cases, ang bilang ngayon, Agosto 24 ay nasa 127,703. Katumbas po ay 6.83% ng ating kabuuang kaso. Sa kabilang dako, ang ating pong recoveries ay umabot na sa 1,709,724 at ang recovery rate po ay nasa 91.44%, habang ang bilang ng mga pumanaw ay nasa 32,264 pangkalahatan mula simula, at ang ating pong CFR ay nananatiling nasa 1.73. At sa atin naman pong updates on the presidential directives, ito po ay huling bahagi ng aking ulat. Nais po namin magbigay ng mga sumusunod, Mr. President. Nakapagpasa na po kami ng lahat ng dokumento na kailangan sa pagpapalabas ng 311 million thereabouts for special risk allowance para sa atin additional 20,156 na mga healthcare workers sa Department of Budget and Management para sa period covering December 2020 hanggang June 30, 2021. At naghihintay na lamang po kami para sa Special Allotment Release Order mula sa DBM upang ma-download po namin ito sa mga ospital sa lalong madaling panahon. So ito na lamang po, mahal na po, Mr. President, maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig at handa na po akong sumagot sa inyo pong mga katanungan.
Salamat, Secretary Duque.
Maraming salamat sa inyong patuloy na pagtangkilik sa ating tahanan at pagsubaybay sa mga kaganapan na nangyayari at sa ating tagumpay na natatamo dyan sa Indonesia. Hopefully, we will see you again in our next update. God bless.